Hello there, everybody. The coup in Russia and why bro decided to back down. I don't know how to say his name, so I just said, bro, don't come at me unless you can say his name either.
Вы умеете прощать?
Are you able to forgive?
Да.
Yes, but not everything.
Но не все.
А что невозможно бросить?
Предательство.
Betrayal.
June
Makes
24th, 2023. Everyone was witnessing a historic coup in the largest nation in the world. The Wagner convoy was headed towards Moscow. They had already entered Moscow's province and were only 200 kilometers away from the city. Wagner's only goal was to replace Putin and give the Russian people a new president. Things were so bad that there was news of Putin escaping Moscow, while his military mounted a defense for the onslaught of Wagner soldiers. Putin had so little hope of stopping Wagner mercenaries that there were reports of Russian officials moving the nuclear warheads to keep them out of Wagner hands. But then Prigozhin published an audio recording that shocked the whole world. They were going to dismantle PMC Wagner. We came out on 23rd June to the March of Justice. In a day, we walked to nearly 200 kilometers away from Moscow. In this time, we did not spill a single drop of blood of our fighters. Now the moment has come when blood may spill. That's why, understanding the responsibility for spilling Russian blood on one of the sides, we are turning back our convoys and going back to field camps according to the plan. And that's it. It was all over in a blink of a second. The most historic event of the 20th century was over, as if nothing happened. Experts and onlookers were left with their mouths wide open with this anticlimactic ending in which Prigozhin agreed to leave Russia for Belarus, and a criminal case against him for treason will be dropped by the Kremlin. So in this video, let's go over the real reasons behind why Prigozhin backed down from his coup.
The real reason is...
I'm so sorry for asking for likes again. I realize it's very annoying for some of you guys,
like
but I put in a lot of effort to research, write, record, and edit these videos. And if you guys don't like the video, it signals to the algorithm that the video is not worth promoting and all my effort goes to waste.
Yeah, I gotta look him up.
If you find the video helpful, please,
even though I'm subscribed, I still gotta look him up.
Below.
So you guys should like my videos too, to see me again.
One of the biggest reasons behind Prigozhin backing down could be that he was tricked by Putin's puppet, Lukashenko. You see, Putin has been a very good friend to Lukashenko. Back in 2020, when Lukashenko won the Belarusian presidential election by a landslide, all the while being highly unpopular amongst the Belarusian citizen, massive protests broke out all across Belarus, and it seemed like this might be the end of Lukashenko's rule. That's when Lukashenko asked his close friend Putin for help. And Putin sent the Russian army to calm down the situation in Belarus. Ever since then, Lukashenko has kept his rule in Belarus and has done more than enough to return the favor to Putin. The Russian army has been able to use Belarus to attack Ukraine from another front, and there is also news of Russian nuclear weapons being stationed in Belarus. Now, Lukashenko can't have his buddy Putin lose power in Russia, because if Putin loses power, Lukashenko knows that he will be next. So he was at the forefront of the negotiations when Prigozhin launched his coup against the Kremlin. Lukashenko also took full credit for the deal that he brokered with Prigozhin to stop this Wagner convoy headed towards Moscow. Now, this deal is where the problems start. Details of the deal first came out from the Wagner camp. According to the Prigozhin side, the deal included security for fighters of Wagner who supported Prigozhin, full immunity for Prigozhin himself, and most importantly, a promise to change leadership of Russian Ministry of Defense. I am guessing this is referring to Sergei Shoigu. From the beginning, Prigozhin's goal was to serve justice to Shoigu. We could hear that in 2 videos he published before launching his coup. I have this covered in previous videos, so you can check it out for details. Initially, Prigozhin didn't put any blame on Putin for Russia's failure in the war. He only started targeting Putin after Putin's address, where Putin called Prigozhin's action a treason and a stab in the back. Putin promised to punish him for his treason. Only after these words from Putin did Prigozhin attack him, replying that Putin made the wrong choice, and soon Russia will have a new president. So it makes sense that after Prigozhin was promised a...
When data comes at you fast, come up with...
Hey, bro. We trying to watch something important, information news right now. I don't need your
change in
ads popping
leadership
up.
at the
Yo, did you guys hear that YouTube is getting sued because they're like people could skip their ads? And then in the comments of that, it was on Twitter, right? And then side piece, by the way. And then in the comments of that, people were like, "Why are you making like 2 hour long like ads for us to sit through and watch, expecting us not to skip through it?" Bro was like, "Bro, if you can't get your point across in 5 seconds, you don't need to be making ads." I was
Russian
like,
Ministry
"Damn,
of Defense, he would
you're not
stop
wong,
his
man.
assault. But this is where the
Why are you
theory
making
that
a
he was
2 hour long
tricked
ad?"
comes
I've
about.
actually had one of
Right
those
after Prigozhin's
skipped.
announcement, Kremlin spokesman Peskov confirmed the reports that a deal with Prigozhin was agreed on, but he denied any negotiations about personnel changes at the Russian Ministry of Defense. Now, it seems like Prigozhin got nothing from the deal other than immunity, and he didn't make any progress on his initial goal of teaching justice to the heads of the Ministry of Defense. Since this news, Prigozhin has not made any public statement, but he is expected to speak to the public once he arrives in Belarus. So be sure to hit the subscribe button below to catch my video on his public statement. On that note, over the last 2 days, more than 1 million of you guys have watched my videos and are not yet subscribed to the channel.
I'm subscribed. Make sure to subscribe to me too.
Geopolitical events, please hit the subscribe
Yeah,
button
subscribe to
below.
both of us. You heard
Now,
him.
of course, there's a chance that Prigozhin stopped his assault for a reason entirely separate from this. So
Which
let's
would
go
be?
over other possibilities. Prigozhin is a businessman, and this was all business. I am sure by now most of you know that Prigozhin started the private military group Wagner. Private military is basically what the name suggests. They are guns for hire. Russia used them to go to places that they didn't want to go officially and do things that they didn't want the world to know as per the Russian government's orders. For example, Wagner played a big role in Syria to make sure that Russian ally President Bashar al-Assad's government stayed in power. To achieve this, they did everything they could. They didn't care if their actions killed civilians, aid workers, and prisoners. They committed war crimes so bad that even mention of these actions will get this video demonetized and
Really?
restricted.
Damn.
I do have a full video on this topic, but of course even that video is heavily censored. In return for the brutal actions, Wagner has received contracts to oil and gas fields in Syria, which have made Prigozhin billions. It's not just Syria. Wagner has executed this business model across the world. In the Central African Republic, Wagner has rights to gold and diamond mines after it propped up the autocratic leader with its mercenaries. In Sudan, Wagner controls the gold mines and processing plant for helping the government in its civil war, and in Libya, Wagner has considerable control of its oil fields in return for helping its government in the civil war. These are just a few examples of Wagner's business dealings, but hopefully you will get the point. Prigozhin is a businessman, and fighting in Ukraine was most likely a business deal for him, where he was being paid by the Russian government to carry out attacks that were too brutal for the Russian army to carry out in front of the public eye. But as his relationship with the Russian Ministry of Defense deteriorated, he realized that his business deal wasn't a favorable one for him. Russia's economy is struggling with sanctions, but I doubt that would stop them from paying Wagner. I'm guessing the issue is more related to his relationship with the head of the Ministry of Defense, who is not a fan of Prigozhin. I'm guessing that it is an awkward situation where the person paying you doesn't like you very much like me and YouTube. That's why they keep restricting my videos. Please remember to hit the like button below. Back to the video. So maybe he devised all this to get off the fighting in Ukraine and leave his head held high. That
He
would
doesn't
be a
wanna
very
fight
smart
anymore?
business move. The last theory that I will
Doesn't
cover
want
is
to
the
commit
fact
any
that
more
when
war crimes
Prigozhin
because now he started
his
caring
coup,
about humans.
it was
I
widely
guess.
believed that he had internal support of high-level elites from the Russian government. Popular support for this theory is the fact that Wagner Group faced no opposition from FSB agents at the Ukraine-Russian borders when they entered Russia, almost like FSB agents had instructions from higher up to let the Wagner convoys through. A similar event took place in the city of Rostov when Wagner was able to take over the city and government headquarters there without much opposition. This is also where we saw the popular video of Prigozhin sitting down with a Rostov government official and saying how he wants to talk to Shoigu. But it's quite possible that this is when Prigozhin lost his support from high-level officials who were behind him until now. You see, after Wagner took over Rostov, every high-level Russian official publicly pledged their loyalty to Putin. This was probably done to calm the public and also show Putin that they are not behind Prigozhin's action. Prigozhin and his shadow supporters probably didn't expect this. They were hoping that as the Wagner group gets closer to Moscow, more and
people
more
will
officials
join
will
them.
come out
Yeah.
against Putin's government and show their support for Wagner. But the fact that not a single official publicly supported Wagner most definitely took the winds out of their sail. As the reality set in, any official or officials supporting Prigozhin decided not to risk their lives on a losing horse and publicly announced their support for Putin. They probably helped convince Prigozhin to take a bad deal in negotiation where he basically achieved nothing. Again, just a theory. There are loads
That
more
makes sense
theories
now.
that people are speculating about, but I only covered the ones that I thought had the most credibility. As I was finishing up the script, a Telegraph article came out claiming that, according to UK security
Made it there
sources,
to his
Russian
family?
intelligence services threatened to harm the families of Wagner leaders before Yevgeny Prigozhin called off his advance on Moscow. Of course, it makes sense that if his family was at risk, he would back down. But something feels off about this story. He probably already knew that Putin would do this. This is criminal 101. If you go after someone with power, they will go after the people you care about. Now, there's a possibility that Prigozhin had his family hiding somewhere where he thought Putin's people wouldn't find them, but they were able to find his family, and that's why he stopped his march and accepted exile to Belarus. Hopefully, more details about this come out soon. As I said in my last video, this is a very fast-moving news story, and if you want to keep up with the most up-to-date developments, be sure to sign up for my newsletter, Global Recaps, down below. Every day I send out an email directly to your inbox covering the most important world news that you can read in less than 5 minutes. Sign up now using the link below.
Interesting. I wonder, did they take his family captive, and is that why he decided to pull back? This guy will never stand near a window or have anyone else cook for him for the rest of his life. Would make sense. Makes sense. I mean, if you try to overthrow the current president, right, and the people you thought who was supposed to be on your side decided were like, yeah, nah, we're not doing that, because the people who aren't on your side didn't speak out about what he was doing. Forget about it. Yeah, I'm cooking for myself. I'm growing my own food. Exactly. Actually, me and my poison of food just take me out with a couple of other people. Not caring about the other people, just taking me out. But yeah, like, subscribe. See you guys later. I hope you have a good day or night, and bye. And that would be crazy, actually. Bye bye.